Logan Carter's calloused hands freeze on the twisted metal as his eyes lock onto the small, alien form nestled within the wreckage. An abandoned Lemnorian infant, its iridescent scales glinting in the harsh sunlight, lies motionless amidst the debris of a destroyed spacecraft on the outskirts of New Houston. The 35-year-old construction worker's heart pounds as he realizes he's the only human male who dares to step up and face this unprecedented situation. The acrid smell of burning fuel fills the air as Logan scans the area, his gaze falling upon a critically injured Lemnorian female nearby. Her chest rises and falls in shallow, labored breaths, her scaled skin marred by deep gashes. Without hesitation, Logan reaches for his comm device, calling for emergency services. The response is swift but devastating. They refuse to intervene, citing strict non-intervention policies following recent human-alien conflicts. Logan's mind races, the weight of responsibility settling heavily on his shoulders. He can't leave the infant to die, nor can he abandon the injured mother. With a deep breath, he makes a decision that will change his life forever. Gently cradling the alien child in one arm and supporting the unconscious mother with the other, Logan begins the arduous journey back to his modest apartment. The next week passes in a blur of sleepless nights and constant vigilance. Logan draws on his limited medical knowledge from mandatory military service, working tirelessly to stabilize the Lemnorian female's condition. He fashions makeshift bandages from torn sheets and uses household items to create a sterile environment. All the while, he tends to the infant, struggling to decipher its needs and adapting human childcare techniques on the fly. As days turn into nights, Logan's apartment transforms into a secret sanctuary. He scours the extranet for information on Lemnorian physiology, improvising solutions when human methods fall short. The infant's diet proves particularly challenging, requiring Logan to concoct nutrient-rich formulas from unlikely ingredients. Despite the constant fear of discovery, Logan perseveres, driven by a sense of duty he can't fully explain. On the 7th day, the Lemnorian female regains consciousness. Her name is Xena, a 28-year-old refugee fleeing her war-torn homeworld. As she slowly regains strength, Xena reveals the harsh realities of Lemnorian culture. Males abandon their offspring, leaving females to raise children alone. But Xena's injuries prevent her from fulfilling this role, leaving Logan as the infant's sole caretaker. Logan, despite his initial reluctance, finds himself drawn to the alien child. He names her Eris, meaning resilient in the Lemnorian language, a fitting tribute to her survival against all odds. As Xena's health improves, she and Logan form an unlikely alliance. She teaches him about Lemnorian culture and physiology, while he shares human customs and childcare practices. Their fragile harmony is soon threatened as Logan's frequent absences from work draw unwanted attention. Neighbors begin to whisper, and the local Lemnorian refugee community takes notice of the human raising one of their own. Logan faces potential legal consequences for harboring undocumented aliens and violating non-intervention treaties, but he refuses to abandon Eris and Xena. As tensions rise and scrutiny intensifies, Logan loses his job, plunging their unconventional family into financial uncertainty. Yet he remains resolute in his commitment to Eris and Xena, even as the challenges mount. In a world fractured by interspecies conflict, Logan's actions begin to challenge both human and Lemnorian societal expectations, setting the stage for a battle that will test the limits of compassion, duty, and the very definition of family. Logan's world had been turned upside down, but he refused to abandon Eris and Xena. As financial pressures mounted, he realized he needed help. With a heavy heart, he reached out to his older brother, Marcus Carter. Marcus, a 40-year-old retired military officer, arrived at Logan's apartment with a skeptical frown. "This better be good, little brother," he grumbled, stepping inside. His eyes widened as they fell upon Xena and Eris. The Lemnorian female sat on the couch, cradling the infant in her arms. Logan took a deep breath. "Marcus, meet Xena and Eris." For a long moment, Marcus stood frozen, his military training visibly battling with his shock. Then, to Logan's surprise, his brother's expression softened. He approached Xena slowly, hands raised in a non-threatening gesture. "I'm Marcus, Logan's brother," he said, his voice gentler than Logan had ever heard it. Xena nodded, her iridescent scales shimmering in the apartment's dim light. "Thank you for coming," she said, her voice still weak from her injuries. As Marcus observed the makeshift family, his demeanor changed. He watched Logan prepare a bottle of Eris's special formula, noting the ease with which his brother handled the alien infant. "You've really stepped up, haven't you?" Marcus murmured. Over the next few hours, Logan explained everything: the crash, the rescue, and the challenges they'd faced. Marcus listened intently, his military mind no doubt assessing the situation from all angles. Finally, Marcus spoke. "This is bigger than you realize, Logan. The diplomatic implications alone—" He trailed off, then nodded decisively. "I have some contacts at the new Houston Interspecies Relations Office. I think I can get you a job there as a cultural liaison." Logan's heart raced. A job meant stability, resources, a chance to provide for Eris and Xena properly. But it also meant increased scrutiny. "Is it safe?" he asked. Marcus shrugged. "Safer than unemployment and neighbor suspicion. Plus, it'll give you access to information and resources you'll need for—" He gestured at Eris. "All of this." Within a week, Logan found himself walking into the gleaming offices of the Interspecies Relations Department. His new position provided a steady income and access to vital resources, but it also placed him under a microscope. Every day was a delicate balance of learning his new role while guarding his secret. At home, Xena's health continued to improve. She took on more responsibility in caring for Eris, teaching Logan intricate details of Lemnorian childcare. As they worked together, Logan found himself drawn to Xena in ways he hadn't expected. Their hands would brush as they passed Eris between them, sending shivers down his spine. He caught himself staring at the way her scales caught the light, mesmerized by their ethereal beauty. One evening, as they put Eris to bed, Xena's hand lingered on Logan's arm. "Thank you," she whispered, her eyes meeting his. The moment stretched between them, charged with unspoken tension. Logan's heart thundered in his chest as he leaned closer, drawn by an irresistible force. A sudden cry from Eris broke the spell. They jumped apart, both flustered and confused by the intensity of their feelings. Logan retreated to the kitchen, his palms sweating. How could he reconcile these emotions with the vast cultural differences between them? His internal turmoil was interrupted by a knock at the door. Logan tensed, immediately on alert. He opened it to find Mrs. Evelyn Hawkins, his 65-year-old neighbor, standing there with a plate of cookies. "I thought I heard a baby," she said, peering around Logan into the apartment. "I didn't know you had a little one." Logan's mind raced. Yes, my niece. She's staying with me for a while." Mrs. Hawkins nodded, but her eyes narrowed suspiciously. "How nice. I do hope you'll introduce us sometime." As Logan closed the door, he knew their secret was becoming harder to keep. The next day at work, Logan was introduced to Dr. Lyra Vex, a 32-year-old female Lemnorian xenobiologist. Her piercing gaze made Logan uncomfortable as she questioned him about his knowledge of Lemnorian culture. "You seem remarkably well-informed for a human," she observed, her tone infused with suspicion. Logan fumbled for an explanation. "I've always been fascinated by Lemnorian culture. I've done a lot of research." Dr. Vex didn't seem convinced. As she walked away, Logan couldn't shake the feeling that she would become a significant problem. That night, as Logan recounted his day to Xena, Eris began to glow. Soft, bioluminescent light emanated from her scales, bathing the room in a gentle blue radiance. Logan and Xena exchanged worried glances. This development would make it even harder to keep Eris hidden. As Logan held the glowing infant, marveling at her unique abilities, his comm device buzzed. It was a message from Marcus. "Urgent. Lemnorian traditionalists have arrived on Earth. They're searching for refugees. Be careful." Logan looked at Xena and Eris, his heart clenching with fear and drive. The challenges were mounting, but he knew one thing for certain. He would do whatever it took to protect his newfound family. Logan's heart raced as he read Marcus's message. The arrival of Lemnorian traditionalists on Earth posed a grave threat to Xena and Eris. He glanced at the glowing infant in his arms, her bioluminescent scales casting a soft blue light across the room. The unique ability that had once filled him with wonder now felt like a beacon. drawing unwanted attention to their fragile sanctuary. "We need to act fast," Logan said, turning to Xena. Her eyes widened with fear as he relayed Marcus's warning. "What can we do?" she asked, her voice trembling. Logan took a deep breath, steeling himself for the difficult path ahead. "I'll contact Marcus. We need to create new identities for you and Eris. It's the only way to keep you safe." Over the next few days, Logan worked tirelessly with Marcus to procure forged documentation. His brother's military connections proved invaluable, providing them with expertly crafted identities that would withstand scrutiny. As Logan handed Xena her new Earth ID card, he couldn't help but marvel at the intricate details. "Remember, your name is now Zara Ellis. Eris is officially your daughter, Aria Ellis." Xena nodded, tracing her fingers over the holographic image. "Thank you, Logan. I don't know how to repay you for all of this." Their eyes met, and Logan felt that familiar pull of attraction. He pushed the feeling aside, focusing on the task at hand. "We're not out of the woods yet. We need to be more careful than ever." At work, Logan's efforts to protect Xena and Eris were complicated by Dr. Lyra Vex's growing suspicions. The Lemnorian xenobiologist seemed to watch his every move, her piercing gaze following him as he navigated the corridors of the Interspecies Relations Office. One afternoon, Logan overheard Dr. Vex speaking to a colleague. "Carter's knowledge of Lemnorian culture is unusually extensive. I'm certain he's hiding something." Alarm bells rang in Logan's mind. He needed to throw her off the scent. Over the next week, he carefully planted false information about his background, fabricating a long-standing academic interest in Lemnorian society. He scattered obscure cultural references throughout his work, always making sure to include a few intentional mistakes to maintain believability. Despite his efforts, the pressure of his double life began to take its toll. Logan found himself struggling to concentrate during meetings, his mind constantly drifting to Xena and Eris. He missed deadlines and fumbled presentations, drawing the ire of his supervisor, Director Thomas Reeves. "Carter?" Reeves barked one morning, his stern face creased with disapproval. "My office, now." Logan followed the older man, his palms sweating. Reeves fixed him with a hard stare. "Your performance has been slipping, Carter. I don't know what's going on in your personal life, but you need to get it together. This department can't afford any weak links, especially not with the current political climate." "Yes, sir," Logan replied, his throat dry. "It won't happen again." As he left Reeves's office, Logan's comm device buzzed with a message from Xena. "Eris's abilities are growing stronger. We need to talk." That evening, Logan rushed home to find Xena pacing the living room, her scales shimmering with anxiety. Eris lay in her crib, her tiny body pulsing with soft blue light. "What happened?" Logan asked, scooping up the infant. Xena wrung her hands. "I was feeding her when suddenly I felt overwhelmed. It was like I could feel everything she was feeling. Joy, confusion, hunger, all at once." Logan's eyes widened as he realized the implications. "She's developing empathic abilities. This complicates things." As they discussed their options, a quiet moment fell between them. Logan found himself drawn to Xena, her vulnerability and strength stirring something deep within him. Before he could think better of it, he leaned in and kissed her. The kiss was electric, sending shockwaves through Logan's body. For a moment, all their worries faded away, but as they pulled apart, reality came crashing back. "Logan," Xena whispered, her voice a mix of longing and uncertainty. "What are we doing?" Before he could respond, a sharp knock at the door made them both jump. Logan's heart pounded as he approached the entrance, fearing the worst. He opened the door to find Mrs. Hawkins standing there, her eyes wide with alarm. "Mr. Carter," she said, her voice trembling, I saw something through your window. A strange light. Is everything all right?" Logan forced a smile. "Everything's fine, Mrs. Hawkins. Just trying out some new mood lighting. Thank you for your concern." As he closed the door, Logan leaned against it, his mind racing. They had come too close to exposure. Something had to change. Just then, his comm device buzzed again. It was a message from an unknown number. "Logan Carter, we need to talk. Meet me at the Central Park fountain in 1 hour. Come alone. Krell Vornak." Logan showed the message to Xena, his brow furrowed with concern. "Who's Krell Vornak?" Xena gasped. "He's a Lemnorian diplomat. Logan, this could be very dangerous." As Logan prepared to leave for the meeting, he noticed a strange vehicle parked across the street. His instincts screamed that he was being watched. With a heavy heart, he kissed Aris goodbye and embraced Xena. "Be careful," she whispered. Logan nodded, his determination strengthening. "I will. Whatever happens, I'll find a way to keep you both safe." As he stepped out into the night, Logan's comm device buzzed once more. It was a message from Director Reeves. "Emergency meeting at the office. Come immediately." Logan froze, torn between his duty to his job and the mysterious meeting with Krell Vornak. As he weighed his options, he couldn't shake the feeling that his carefully constructed life was about to unravel. With a deep breath, he made his decision and set off into the darkness, unaware of the life-altering choices that lay ahead. Logan's heart raced as he approached the Interspecies Relations Office. The night air felt thick with tension, and the hairs on the back of his neck stood on end. As he rounded the corner, he stopped in his tracks. The building was surrounded by a swarm of activity. Human and Lemnorian security personnel moved with purpose, their voices a low murmur in the darkness. Swallowing hard, Logan made his way through the crowd, flashing his ID badge at the checkpoints. Inside, he found Director Reeves waiting for him, his face a mask of unwavering persistence. "Carter," Reeves said, his voice low and urgent. "Follow me." As they walked briskly through the corridors, Logan's mind whirled. Had his secret been discovered? Was this about Xena and Aris? Reeves led him into a secure conference room. As the door sealed behind them, Logan's breath caught in his throat. Seated at the table was a tall, regal-looking Lemnorian, his scales shimmering with an iridescent quality Logan had never seen before. "Logan Carter," Reeves said, his tone formal. "Meet Ambassador Thax of the Lemnorian Progressive Faction." The ambassador inclined his head slightly. "Mr. Carter, we have much to discuss." Logan's palms began to sweat as Reeves turned to him. "Your cover's blown, Carter. Mrs. Hawkins's report about the strange lights, combined with Dr. Vex's investigation. We know about Xena and Aris." A cold dread settled in Logan's stomach. He opened his mouth to speak, but Reeves held up a hand. "Before you say anything, you should know that I've been aware of your situation for some time. I kept it hidden because of its potential diplomatic significance." Reeves gestured to Ambassador Thax. "The ambassador can explain further." Thax leaned forward, his eyes fixed on Logan. "Mr. Carter, the woman you know as Xena is far more than a simple refugee. She is the daughter of one of our most prominent progressive leaders. She was smuggled off-world for her protection when the Civil War began." Logan's mind reeled with this new information. Before he could process it fully, his comm device buzzed insistently. With a sinking feeling, he glanced at the screen. It was a message from Xena. "Traditionalist coming. Krell Vornak warned us. Help!" Logan's blood ran cold. He looked up at Reeves and Thax, his voice tight with urgency. "Xena and Aris are in danger. I need to go now." Reeves' face hardened. "Carter, you can't leave. We need to—" But Logan was already moving. He bolted from the room, ignoring the shouts behind him. He sprinted through the building, his mind focused on one thing, getting to Xena and Aris. In the parking lot, Logan commandeered the nearest vehicle, overriding the security protocols with his emergency clearance. As he sped through the streets of New Houston, he prayed he wasn't too late. Logan screeched to a halt outside his apartment building, his heart pounding. The sound of a struggle reached his ears, and he raced up the stairs, taking them two at a time. He burst into the hallway to find chaos. Commander Draz, a hulking Lemnorian with battle-scarred scales, was attempting to drag Xena from the apartment. Aris wailed in Xena's arms, her tiny body pulsing with bright blue light. Without hesitation, Logan launched himself at Commander Draz. His military training kicked in as he grappled with the larger Lemnorian. They crashed into the wall, trading blows in a frenzied struggle. "Run, Xena!" Logan shouted, ducking a vicious swipe from Draz. The fight spilled out onto the street, drawing the attention of startled civilians. Logan could hear sirens in the distance, growing closer by the second. Suddenly, a wave of raw emotion washed over him. Fear, panic, and distress flooded his senses. Logan stumbled, momentarily disoriented. He looked around to see everyone, Draz, his soldiers, even the onlookers, similarly affected. Eris's telepathic abilities had manifested, projecting her terror to everyone in the vicinity. Seizing the moment of confusion, Logan grabbed Xena's hand and pulled her towards his vehicle. They piled in, Eris still projecting waves of emotion that left their pursuers reeling. As Logan gunned the engine, he saw Commander Draz shaking off the effects of Eris's telepathic burst. In the rearview mirror, he watched as Draz and his forces scrambled to their own vehicles. "Hold on," Logan warned as he swerved into traffic, narrowly avoiding a collision. The streets of New Houston became a blur as Logan pushed the vehicle to its limits. Draz's forces were in hot pursuit, weaving through traffic with reckless abandon. Logan's comm device buzzed. To his surprise, it was Dr. Lyra Vex. "Carter," her voice crackled through the speaker. "I'm tracking your position. Take the next left. I'm rerouting traffic to clear a path." Despite his initial distrust, Logan followed her instructions. True to her word, the traffic lights ahead turned green, allowing them to speed through intersections unimpeded. "Why are you helping us?" Logan asked, swerving to avoid a traditionalist vehicle that had pulled alongside them. "I was wrong about you," Lyra admitted. "What you're doing, it's important. Now head for the spaceport. It's your only chance." As they approached the spaceport, Logan saw a familiar figure waiting, his brother Marcus, standing with a group of Earth security personnel. Logan brought the vehicle to a screeching halt. He looked at Xena, her eyes wide with fear and trust. In that moment, he knew there was only one path forward. "We need to get off-world," he said, his voice firm. "It's the only way to keep you both safe." Xena nodded, clutching Aris close. "I trust you, Logan." They sprinted across the tarmac, dodging between massive starships. Behind them, Logan could hear the shouts of both Earth and Lemnorian forces converging on their position. A small interstellar vessel loomed ahead. Logan's hands flew over the control panel, his limited knowledge of alien technology pushed to its limits as he initiated the launch sequence. The ship's engines roared to life just as Commander Draz and Marcus reached the landing pad. Logan caught a glimpse of his brother's face, a mix of shock, understanding, and perhaps a hint of pride, before the ship lifted off. As they broke through the atmosphere, the reality of their situation began to sink in. They were fugitives now, adrift in space with limited fuel and supplies. Logan turned to Xena, seeing the same mix of fear and exhilaration he felt reflected in her eyes. Without words, they moved towards each other, their lips meeting in a kiss born of shared danger and deepening affection. The moment was broken by a sharp beep from the ship's console. An incoming transmission from an unknown source flashed on the screen. Logan and Xena exchanged worried glances as Logan reached out to accept the call, steeling himself for whatever new challenge awaited them in the vast expanse of space. Space. Logan's finger hovered over the accept button, his heart pounding in his chest. With a deep breath, he pressed it. The screen flickered to life, revealing the familiar face of Krell Vornak, the Lemnorian diplomat who had tried to warn them earlier. His scales shimmered with an otherworldly iridescence in the dim light of wherever he was transmitting from. "Logan Carter," Krell's voice crackled through the ship's speakers. "I'm glad to see you made it off-planet. You're in grave danger. Both Earth and Lemnorian forces are in pursuit." Logan exchanged a worried glance with Xena. "We're aware of that. What we need now is a plan." Krell nodded. "I can help. There's a secret refueling station hidden in an asteroid field near the edge of Earth's solar system. I'm transmitting the coordinates now." The ship's console beeped as it received the data. Logan studied the navigational display, his brow furrowed. "We're low on fuel. I'm not sure we can make it." "You must try," Krell insisted. "It's your only chance. Good luck, Logan Carter. We'll speak again when you're safe." The transmission cut out, leaving them in silence. Logan input the coordinates, and the ship's engines hummed as it changed course. He turned to Xena, who was cradling a sleeping Eris. "How is she?" Xena's eyes were filled with worry. "She's exhausted from the telepathic outburst. Logan, what are we going to do?" He reached out and squeezed her hand. "We're going to survive, one step at a time." The journey to the asteroid field was tense. Every alarm and beep from the ship's systems sent a jolt of panic through Logan. His limited knowledge of alien technology was pushed to its limits as he struggled to keep the vessel running on its last dregs of fuel. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the asteroid field came into view. Logan's eyes scanned the area, searching for any sign of the hidden station. Suddenly, a flash of light caught his attention. A small, nondescript structure materialized from behind a large asteroid, its camouflage technology deactivating. "There," Logan breathed, pointing it out to Xena. Navigating through the dense field of space rocks proved to be a harrowing experience. Logan's palms were slick with sweat as he maneuvered the ship, narrowly avoiding collisions. With a final burst from the maneuvering thrusters, he guided the vessel into the station's docking bay. As the airlock sealed behind them, Logan and Xena shared a moment of relief. They had made it, at least for now. The docking bay door opened, revealing a tall, lithe Lemnorian female. Her scales were a deep blue, with hints of silver that caught the light as she moved. "Welcome," she said, her voice carrying a slight accent. "I'm Mira, the engineer who manages this facility." Logan and Xena introduced themselves, with Eris still sleeping in Xena's arms. Mira's eyes widened slightly at the sight of the hybrid child, but she made no comment. "Come," Mira said, gesturing for them to follow. "We need to get your ship refueled and restocked quickly. This station serves as a waypoint for Lemnorian refugees, but it's not meant for extended stays." As they walked through the station's corridors, Logan took in the mix of human and Lemnorian technology. It was a testament to what could be achieved when the two species worked together. While Mira began the refueling process, Logan and Xena found a quiet corner to talk. The reality of their situation was finally sinking in. "We can't go back to Earth," Logan said, his voice low. "Not now." Xena nodded, her expression torn. "We could seek asylum on a neutral planet. There are a few that have remained uninvolved in the Lemnorian conflict." Logan ran a hand through his hair, conflicted. The thought of leaving behind everything he knew, his job, his brother, his entire life, was daunting. But as he looked at Xena and Eris, he knew he couldn't abandon them. Before he could respond, Eris stirred in Xena's arms. The child's face contorted in discomfort, and she let out a weak cry. Xena's eyes widened in alarm. "Something's wrong," she said, her voice tight with worry. Mira hurried over, her engineer's tools forgotten. She examined Eris closely, her expression growing grave. "It's a Lemnorian childhood ailment. Rare, but serious. She needs specialized treatment." Logan felt his heart sink. "Where can we get that treatment?" Mira hesitated. "Only on certain Lemnorian inhabited worlds. And given the current political climate," her words were cut off by a sudden blaring alarm. The station shook, and emergency lights began to flash. "We've been found," Mira said, her voice tight. "Earth Alliance ships approaching from one side, a Lemnorian traditionalist warship from the other." Logan's mind raced. They were trapped between two forces, both of which would tear his newfound family apart. He made a split-second decision. "Mira, we need you," he said urgently. "Your knowledge of Lemnorian space, your ability to treat Eris, come with us." Mira hesitated for only a moment before nodding. "All right, let's go." They raced back to the ship, the sound of weapons fire echoing through the station. Logan's hands flew over the controls, disengaging the docking clamps. With a lurch, they shot out of the bay and into the chaos of battle. Earth Alliance ships swarmed around them, and Logan recognized one in particular, his brother Marcus's vessel. On the other side, the imposing bulk of Commander Draz's warship loomed. Logan pushed the ship to its limits, weaving through the firefight. Alarms blared as energy weapons grazed their hull. Xena held Eris close, her eyes squeezed shut in concentration, perhaps trying to soothe the child's distress. Just as they were about to activate their faster-than-light drive, a proximity alert sounded. A lone ship had broken off from the Earth Alliance fleet and was pursuing them. "It's Dr. Vex," Logan said in disbelief, recognizing the vessel. The comm system crackled to life. "Logan, it's Lyra. Please, let me dock. I'm here to help." Logan hesitated, remembering Dr. Vex's assistance during their escape from Earth. With a silent prayer that he wasn't making a mistake, he granted her request. As Dr. Vex's ship docked with theirs, Logan prepared himself for whatever new challenge awaited them. The stars stretched into lines of light as the faster-than-light drive engaged, carrying them away from the battle and into the unknown depths of space. Logan looked around at his unlikely crew: Xena, the Lemnorian refugee and mother of his child; Eris, the hybrid infant with growing abilities; Mira, the Lemnorian engineer with vital knowledge; and now Dr. Lyra Vex, whose motives were yet unclear. As the ship hurtled through space, Logan realized that their journey was only beginning, and the challenges ahead would test them all in ways they couldn't imagine. As they ventured deeper into uncharted space, Logan couldn't shake the feeling that their troubles were just getting started. The ship's sensors blared to life, startling everyone on board. Logan's hands flew over the control panel, his eyes widening at the readout. "We're approaching a debris field," he announced, his voice tense. "Looks like the remnants of a battle." As they drew closer, the true scale of the destruction became apparent. The viewport filled with twisted metal and shattered hulls, the silent remains of both traditionalist and progressive Lemnorian vessels. Logan's grip tightened on the controls as he began to weave through the treacherous maze of wreckage. "Hold on," he warned, his focus entirely on the task at hand. The ship lurched and shuddered as he made split-second adjustments, narrowly avoiding collisions that could spell disaster for their already battered vessel. In the back of the ship, Eris let out a piercing cry. Xena held her close, her eyes wide with concern. "Something's wrong," she called out, her voice strained. Dr. Vex and Mira rushed to their side. Eris's skin was flickering erratically, pulses of bioluminescence racing across her small form. Her eyes were unfocused, and waves of confused emotion washed over the crew, a side effect of her intensifying telepathic abilities. "We need to stabilize her," Dr. Vex said, pulling out a medical scanner. "Mira, I need your expertise on Lemnorian physiology." The two women worked in tandem, their earlier mistrust forgotten in the face of this crisis. Mira's knowledge of Lemnorian biology complemented Dr. Vex's human medical techniques, and slowly they began to make progress. Logan stole glances back at them whenever he could, his heart racing not just from the strain of piloting. The sight of Xena cradling Eris, her face etched with worry, stirred something deep within him. As they finally cleared the debris field, the ship's long-range sensors picked up a new signal. Logan's brow furrowed as he studied the readout. "There's a planet nearby," he announced. "And a Lemnorian colony?" Mira looked up from tending to Eris, her eyes widening. "It must be Haven," she said. "I've heard rumors. It's supposed to be a neutral zone in the Civil War." Logan exchanged glances with Xena, a silent conversation passing between them. "It might be our best chance for help," he said finally. "For Eris." He set a course for the planet, hoping they hadn't just jumped from the frying pan into the fire. As they entered the atmosphere, the ship began to shudder violently. Alarms blared as systems overloaded, pushed beyond their limits by the damage sustained in the debris field. "Brace for impact!" Logan shouted, fighting the controls as they plummeted towards the surface. The ground rushed up to meet them, and with a bone-jarring crash, they skidded to a halt on the outskirts of a gleaming city. As the dust settled, Logan ran a quick systems check. His heart sank. "Propulsion's shot," he reported grimly. "We're not going anywhere for a while." Before they could fully process their situation, a delegation approached the ship. Led by a regal-looking female Lemnorian, they carried themselves with an air of cautious authority. Logan lowered the ramp, and the crew stepped out to meet their welcoming party. The lead Lemnorian inclined her head in greeting. "I am Governor Thala," she said, her voice carrying a hint of an accent. "Welcome to Haven. We've granted you temporary asylum, but I must warn you, our neutrality is a delicate balance. Both factions have eyes and ears here." Logan nodded, understanding the implied warning. "Thank you, Governor. We have a sick child who needs medical attention." Thala's eyes softened as she looked at Eris. "Of course, our facilities are at your disposal. But remember, discretion is paramount here." As they were led into the city, Logan couldn't shake the feeling that they had traded one set of dangers for another. The gleaming spires of Haven rose around them, beautiful and alien, and potentially hiding threats at every turn. Their accommodations were modest but comfortable, a far cry from the cramped quarters of the ship. As night fell, Logan found himself alone with Xena, Aris having been taken to the medical center with Dr. Vex and Mira. The tension that had been building between them since their escape from Earth finally boiled over. Without a word, they came together, months of fear and uncertainty transforming into a passionate embrace. But their moment was short-lived. An urgent knock at the door startled them apart. Logan opened it to find a breathless messenger. "Governor Thala sent me," the young Lemnorian said. "A ship matching the description of Commander Draz's vessel has been detected approaching Haven." Logan's blood ran cold. He turned to Xena, seeing his own fear reflected in her eyes. Their brief respite was over. Once again, they would have to fight for their survival, and for the future of the child who had become the center of their world. As they absorbed the gravity of this news, Logan and Xena exchanged a determined glance. They had come too far to turn back now. Governor Thala's eyes darted between them, sensing their drive. "I have a proposition," she said, her voice low and urgent. "We have a secret underground facility beneath our main medical center. It's designed for emergencies such as this. I can offer you sanctuary there." Logan nodded, his mind already racing through their options. "Thank you, Governor. We accept." The next few minutes were a blur of activity. Thala coordinated with her staff, orchestrating their covert relocation. As they hurried through the city's winding streets, Logan caught sight of the looming silhouette of Commander Draz's ship descending through the atmosphere. Just as they reached the medical center, Logan's communicator buzzed. His brother's face appeared on the small screen, his expression grim but determined. "Logan, I've got a plan," Marcus said, his voice crackling with static. "I'm going to create a false trail, make it look like you've left Haven. It should buy you some time." Relief and gratitude washed over Logan. "Marcus, No time," his brother cut him off. "Just stay safe, little brother." The connection terminated, leaving Logan staring at a blank screen. He took a deep breath, steeling himself for what was to come. Governor Thala led them to a nondescript storage room. With a few deft movements, she activated a hidden panel, revealing a sleek elevator. They piled in, the doors sliding shut just as the distant sound of Commander Draz's troops echoed through the building. The descent seemed to take an eternity. When the doors finally opened, they revealed a vast, state-of-the-art facility. Banks of advanced medical equipment lined the walls, and a team of researchers looked up in surprise at their arrival. "Welcome to Haven's best-kept secret," Thala said, gesturing around the room. "Dr. Vex, Mira, you'll find everything you need here to continue your research on Aris." The two scientists wasted no time, immediately setting to work with the new equipment at their disposal. Logan watched as they transferred Aris to a specialized medical pod, the child's small form dwarfed by the machinery. Days blended into nights as they settled into their underground sanctuary. Logan found himself constantly on edge, expecting at any moment to hear the thunderous footsteps of Draz's soldiers above. But Marcus's diversion seemed to be working, at least for now. As Aris's treatment progressed, Logan and Xena found themselves drawn closer together. The shared concern for their child, coupled with the intensity of their situation, led to stolen moments of intimacy in the quiet corners of the facility. One night, as they lay together in the small quarters they'd been assigned, Xena traced the lines of Logan's face with her fingers. "I never thought I'd find this," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Logan pulled her closer, marveling at how natural it felt to hold her. "Find what?" "A partner, a family, hope." She paused, her eyes glistening in the dim light. "When I fled my homeworld, I thought I'd lost everything. But now—" Their conversation was interrupted by a soft knock at the door. Dr. Vex's excited voice called out, "Logan, Xena, you need to see this." They hurried to the main lab, where Dr. Vex and Mira stood over a holographic display of DNA sequences. "We've made a breakthrough," Dr. Vex announced, her eyes shining with excitement. "Aris's DNA contains sequences we've never seen before. It could be the key to successful human-Lemnorian hybridization." The implications of this discovery hung in the air. Logan looked at Xena, seeing his own mix of hope and apprehension reflected in her eyes. As the days wore on, the strain of their confinement began to show. Governor Thala visited when she could, bringing news of the increasing tensions above ground. Commander Draz's presence had destabilized Haven's delicate neutrality, with colonists divided between traditionalist and progressive sympathies. Eris's conditions steadily improved, but with her returning health came new challenges. Her telepathic abilities grew stronger, projecting bursts of emotion and fragmented memories to those around her. Logan found himself experiencing flashes of Xena's past, the chaos of her escape from the Lemnorian homeworld, the fear and uncertainty of her early days as a refugee. These glimpses into Xena's history only deepened Logan's feelings for her, but he also noticed the way Mira's eyes lingered on them when they were together, a flicker of something, jealousy, in her gaze. Their relative calm was shattered when Governor Thala arrived one day, her face drawn with worry. "Commander Draz is growing suspicious," she reported. "He's planning a ground search of Haven. We're running out of time." As they grappled with this news, Thala revealed her plan. "I've contacted moderate leaders from both Lemnorian factions. I'm proposing a secret meeting here on Haven to discuss the implications of your research in Eris's unique genetics. It could be our chance to end this war." Logan's mind raced, seeing both the opportunity and the danger in this plan. As they began to formulate a strategy for the meeting, his communicator chimed. It was another message from Marcus, warning them of Draz's impending search. With time running out, Logan knew they needed a way to secure Eris and the research data. Drawing on his construction background, he began to formulate a plan to modify their damaged ship, creating hidden compartments that could conceal precious cargo. As he worked on the ship, Xena collaborated with Governor Thala to create a false identity that would allow her to pose as a member of the diplomatic envoy. The plan was risky, but it was their best chance at escaping Haven with Eris and the vital research. The date of the diplomatic meeting loomed closer, and with it, the promise of either salvation or capture. Logan worked tirelessly, his hands moving with practiced skill as he retrofitted their vessel. Each weld, each carefully concealed compartment, represented a chance at freedom. As he put the finishing touches on their escape route, Logan paused, the weight of their situation settling heavily on his shoulders. He thought back to his life on Earth, the simple routine of a construction worker, so far removed from the interstellar intrigue he now found himself embroiled in. He looked across the hangar, where Xena was going over the details of her false identity one last time. Aris slept peacefully in her arms, unaware of the maelstrom swirling around her. In that moment, Logan knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, he would face them for the sake of his newfound family. With Commander Draz's forces closing in and the fate of two species potentially hanging in the balance, Logan took a deep breath and returned to his work. Their window of opportunity was rapidly closing, and he was determined to be ready when it arrived. Logan took a deep breath, his calloused hands gripping the modified control panel of their ship. The air in the maintenance bay felt thick with anticipation as he and Mira worked in tandem, making final adjustments to the vessel's systems. "Encryption protocols are set," Mira reported, her fingers flying over a holographic interface. "The ship's signature is masked." Logan nodded, his eyes scanning the readouts. "Good. Let's hope it's enough to fool Draz's sensors." Outside, the streets of Haven bustled with unusual activity. Delegates from various factions converged on the conference center, their ornate robes and formal attire a stark contrast to the tense atmosphere permeating the colony. Xena stood before a mirror in their temporary quarters, adjusting her disguise. She smoothed down the unfamiliar diplomatic uniform, her heart racing as she prepared to step into her role. Dr. Lyra Vex approached, holding 2 data tablets. "Are you ready?" Lyra asked, her voice low and steady. Xena took one of the tablets, feeling its weight in her hands. "As ready as I'll ever be," she replied, squaring her shoulders. Together they made their way to the conference center. Xena's eyes darted from face to face, searching for any sign of recognition or suspicion. They passed through security checkpoints, Xena's false credentials holding up under scrutiny. As they entered the grand meeting hall, Xena's breath caught in her throat. Representatives from both Lemnorian factions filled the room, their distinctive features a reminder of the stakes at play. She caught sight of Governor Thala, who gave her a subtle nod of encouragement. The talks began, voices rising and falling as each side presented their case. Xena listened intently, her fingers tracing the edge of the data tablet that held the key to potentially ending the conflict. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the colony. Panic erupted in the meeting hall as delegates scrambled for cover. Commander Draz's troops poured into the streets, their weapons at the ready. "Now, Logan!" Xena hissed into her concealed communicator. In the maintenance bay, Logan sprang into action. He activated a series of pre-programmed commands, triggering the non-lethal explosives planted around Haven. The sound of distant detonations echoed through the colony, drawing Draz's forces away from the spaceport. Xena and Dr. Vex seized the moment of chaos to slip away from the conference center. They sprinted through the winding streets, ducking into alleyways to avoid patrolling soldiers. Back at the ship, Logan's hands flew over the controls, initiating the launch sequence. The engines hummed to life, vibrating through the hull. "We've got incoming," Mira shouted, her eyes fixed on the sensor readings. "Draz's men have found us." The maintenance bay doors burst open, and a squad of heavily armed soldiers poured in. Logan grabbed a pulse rifle, taking cover behind a stack of crates. "Get those engines hot, Mira. I'll hold them off." Energy bolts sizzled through the air as Logan returned fire. The acrid smell of ozone filled the bay, punctuated by the sharp reports of weapons discharge. Logan's military training kicked in, his movements fluid and precise as he held the attackers at bay. Just as the situation seemed dire, a familiar voice crackled over the comms. "Need a hand, little brother?" Marcus's stealth ship decloaked above the maintenance bay, its weapons systems engaging the enemy forces. The unexpected support gave Logan the opening he needed. "Xena, we're ready for extraction," Logan called into his communicator. Moments later, Xena and Dr. Vex burst into the bay, their clothes singed and faces streaked with sweat. They sprinted up the boarding ramp, Logan providing covering fire as he backed into the ship. "Go, go, go!" Logan shouted as the ramp sealed behind him. The ship lifted off, its engines roaring as it shot out of the maintenance bay. Haven's buildings blurred beneath them as they climbed higher into the atmosphere. But their escape wasn't clean. Draz's vessel rose in pursuit, its weapons systems powering up. Logan gritted his teeth, his hands dancing over the controls as he pushed the ship to its limits. They weaved through layers of clouds, lightning flashing around them as they entered a turbulent storm system. "Eris's dampening field is fluctuating," Mira called out, her voice tight with concern. "It's not going to hold." As if on cue, a wave of raw emotion washed over the crew. Eris's telepathic abilities surged forth, uncontrolled and overwhelming. Logan felt his vision swim, his grip on the controls loosening. Fighting through the psychic onslaught, Logan steered the ship deeper into the heart of the storm. Lightning crackled across the view screen, static electricity dancing over the hull. "Hang on!" Logan yelled as he executed a series of wild maneuvers, using the storm's fury to mask their energy signature. The ship bucked and jolted, alarms blaring as they pushed through the worst of the tempest. For several heart-stopping moments, it seemed as if they might be torn apart by the violent winds. Then suddenly, they broke through. The turbulent atmosphere fell away, replaced by the serene darkness of space. Logan allowed himself a moment of relief before checking their sensors. "We've lost them," he announced, his voice hoarse. Draz's ship is no longer in pursuit. As the adrenaline of their escape began to fade, the crew's attention turned to the stunning sight before them. A massive fleet of ships hung in orbit around Haven, a joint force of Earth Alliance and Lemnorian progressive vessels. "Governor Thala," Xena breathed, realization dawning. She must have called for reinforcements. Their communicator crackled to life, and a stern voice filled the cockpit. "Unidentified vessel, this is Admiral Chen of the Earth Alliance. Stand down and prepare to be boarded." Logan exchanged glances with his crew, uncertainty etched on their faces. They had escaped one danger, only to find themselves facing another. As Logan opened a channel to respond, he knew that their journey was far from finished. The true test of their mission, and the future of human-Lemnorian relations, was only just beginning.
If you finished this story, please subscribe and like the video. Then leave a comment that says, "I liked the story," and I will heart every single one of them. It really helps me. Thank you for your time.